Ohai. Yaremche. Till 2006 Yaremche. A city in Nadvornyansky district of the Ivano-Frankivsk region of Ukraine. The administrative center Yaremchansky of city community where except the city also the village of Mikulishin enters. It is located in the valley of the Prut River at the height of 585 meters above sea level. To Ivano-Frankivsk by rail -54 km, on highways -62 km. Yaremche's inhabitants celebrate a city day in the last week of July. Ancient times. It is a little archaeological finds near Yaremche. In work of the archaeologist Yaroslav Pasternak. 1892-1969. Stanislavshina in an extreme antiquity is dated that in the village of Dora in Mountain Jara over the Prut, in 1874 several pieces of silicon tools from Nadbashonsky to Kivas were found. It was the so-called silicon treasure certifying availability of communications of proto-historical Stanislavshina with the western Volhynia in the tradeways going from vicinities of Vladimir Volinsk along the Bug rivers and Serik to Podnestrovye and Pokoti. S5. Klapchik claims, the associate professor of the Carpathian National University of 5. Stefanik, age of the first archaeological finds near the village of Dori reaches 40,000 years. And already since Mesolith there are concrete proofs of transitions of the primitive person through this territory. 7,000 years ago. Products from obsidian which fields are known in Transcarpathia are found in Staruni of Bogorodichansky district. In the neighborhood of the next Dalyutin the so-called Ploshchansky culture connected with a complex of the finds widespread in Pannonia is revealed. Settling of Gutsalshina took place in princely times. It was reflected in toponyms of Yaremche at Mount Malivo, Eastream Boarsky. Dora. The village of Mikulishin. The Lviv historian Batsarevod gives date of the first mention according to archived documents of the village of Dora in chronology of the most ancient mentions of the cities and villages of Dolitsky Gutsalchina -1618, Yama -1618 and Yaremche -1787. The noticeable mark in the history of Yaremche was left by the Carpathian movement of Oprishk. At the end of the 17th century in the neighborhood of Dora and Yama robbers appeared. In group of Nestor whom 1618 the Shliata managed to catch near Dalyutin there was one peasant from Yama. Dora and Yama's inhabitants were participants of groups Squeaky and Pinty in 1703-1704. Grigori Dranki. Dorianit Semyon Kocherhuk, Semyon Bayurik, Yuri Panchik, Piat Marchik. 1734. The famous leader of insurgents of Olex Dovbush often was in the neighborhood of Yaremche. His sister Dubusha lived in the village of Yama and from there was his fellow and the nephew Pavel Orphanyuk. Here it was supported by adherents Pavel and Stepandranovi. The fellow was Dora's native and the successor put Dovbush Vasily Bayurik. Dorian and Vasily Bayurik, having headed insurgents, shook misters in all mountain villages. To its group the particular possessed Stefan Bachk and Alexei Ivanichuk from Pit. In 1754 Vasily Bayurik is condemned on cruel death. The Polish poet F. Karpinski, the eyewitness of this execution, remembered that before death the leader Bayurik asked a mountain pipe on which he played sad Huzel melodies.
Often peasants were involved in construction of Delyutin Road, Yablunica.
Stanislavski, the head Franchik Krater, was an initiator and the off-taker of the building.
He held the post from 1821 to 1833. The structure of a way proceeded several years, was complete in 1847. Near Dovbush's tract there were several elegant country houses, and over them the rock, from Makovica, which was called Krater's Stone, towered.
In the conditions of domination of the Polish Szlachta and after installation 1772, authorities of Austria-Hungary of life of peasants Dora and Yama were extremely heavy.
Huzels were engaged in livestock production, mainly sheep breeding. There was not enough arable land, it was necessary to carry out before monetary and natural duties on social jobs. Peasants paid in money podymy, irrigatione, various contributions. The lack of the arable land deprived of feudal lords of an opportunity to conduct economy in mountains, and therefore corvée was of little importance.
In 1786, at the description of soils of Dora, it is written down,
in that village the estate never happened.
Yaremche is for the first time mentioned 1787 in a so-called Yasivsky metrics, the first land inventory of Galakina, as a prisilek of the village of Dora.
7 families Turivchin lived in Yaremche's Prisalka. 1787. Piet Boyko, Ivana Nativa, Fedora Sevchuka, Nikolay Stus, Krieger Stiferik, Krieger Stifurik and Andra Kalashniuk. It is considered that the first Ipur Yarema lodged in this mountain valley, and from his name there was a name of the city.
To this certain village of Yaremche it was allocated 1895 after construction of the railroad Delyutin-Voronenko. In 1894, one of the largest in Europe, the arch railway bridge with a deflection of 65 in light, calculated by engineers Stanislav Kaczynski and Sigmund Scharik on the theory of elastic arches on the basis of researches of Society of the Austrian Engineers in Vienna, was constructed here.
In 1944, during Tora Mirovoy Bridge, it was destroyed. Yaremche's blossoming as resort area began in 1894. By 1899, 50 wooden and stone country houses were constructed.
Mr. Zborotsevich, the Bull, Chekelyuk E.
Fischler M. Fischler, Dr. Gellerter, Dr. Grader. 2 country houses. Kalpern Gersh, Kavetsky, the Princess Yulian Kuzinin, Kozlovsky. 2. Kegler. 2.
The druggist Krasnovsky, Lam.
2. The advisor Lutsk, Medishinsky, Karlobst, the advisor Ogirko, Perfetsky, Rapatsky, the chief of tax collectors Rosenfeld, Shaner, Skinsky, Skupnovich, the engineer Spork. 7. The advisor Stenzel, Toller, Dr. Volyansky, Spossel, Stibulyar. 2. Zofalova. 2. Were their owners. Construction of one country house cost an average of 700 kroner. At the very end of the 19th century, Yaremche still was Dora's prisilek. On August 25, 1896, the tourist club, Yaremchansky Club, which chairman was an advisors and invend, was created. Footpaths for walks to mountains were marked. It is made steps to the breakdown falls. Fishing docks are defined. The Yaremchansky Club did everything to attract vacationers, and at last to separate Yaremche from Dora. During a summer season the post office was open.
In 1899 the publisher Leon Zabalovich organized issue of the Yaremche newspaper, which appeared once a week and only during an entertaining season.
In 1902 Stanislavski the photographer Artakovsky in 2 country houses opened photo salons. He also sold cards with types of Yaremche. In spite of the fact that by Yaremche still it was not separated from Dora, in 1900 the first elections of summer void took place. The retired advisor of regional court Vladislav Lutsky became him. Local newspapers in 1902 wrote that Yaremche develops thanks to Lutsky, who does not feel sorry for forces for rise of its development. Thanks to it pavilions for rest, carrying out the streaming road to Dovebush's caves are built. For Yaremche 250 morgues of the state wood are taken away.
In 1905-1906 in Yaremche had a rest for a season of 1,500 people that brought to owners of country houses up to 200,000 kroner annually.
Construction costs of country houses paid off in 3-5 years. In 1907 the first Yaremche guide is issued. For vacationers arranged festivals, concerts, games, etc. Lotteries. 500 prizes are played. Concerts of military orchestra from Stanislav were arranged. The sky was filled by balloons. The first illumination of falls was made in the evening. The program of entertainments is prepared. Everything revenues of Club the Yaremchansky annually reached the considerable amount, from festivals -1048 kroner, from tickets for rest in places, specially allotted for walks -513 kroner, for sale of fishing docks -88 kroner, selling cards -67 kroner. Often got a job to Yaremche in various concerts. So, in 1906 before inhabitants of Yaremche and vacationers the Lviv Academic Choir performed with a concert. Here the opera singer Nedim, the singer from Riga earned Sanada and the favorite of the Lviv public humorist Troyanovsky sang songs. It is interesting that already at the time Yaremanids cared for purity of the environment.
On April 16, 1905 Yaremche's inhabitants, in particular owners of country houses and admirers of the settlement, directed addressed to the Nadverniansky head the application, a protest with the requirement not to allow opening stone to a pit on the verge of Dora in Yaremche because its development will badly affect healthy locals and to frighten of tourists in encounters.
5.
Lutsky's efforts. On August 11, 1902 Yaremche's Priselek was it is nominally separated from the village of Dori.
The newspaper Courier Stanislavsky of the time wrote about it. But actually only on October 17, 1909 the regional Diet in Lviv finally provided to Yaremche the status of the certain settlement. The village constable B. Makarovich became the chairman of community as a result of elections on May 30, 31, 1911. Retired Sokrovishny. The image of the deer running to the right, in a heraldic way, was the coat of arms of the village of Yaremche. In 1912 in Yaremche 24 of 3 persons had a rest.
That year many magazines of Galakina wrote about stay in Yaremche of future heir apparent Karl Franz Joseph Habsburg, who became the Austro-Hungarian Emperor Charles I.
1916-1918. Subsequently, its car. Then still a miracle, unprecedented for Husels. stopped in Yaremche at the railway bridge. Carl's wife Sita from a suburban Parma remained in the car, and he went to sightsee the city. At this moment the local approached and with interest began to study earlier unprecedented vehicle. Having learned that it is Mikulichin's inhabitant, the very prince put the interesting Husel in the car and brought to the native village. At the beginning of World War I, many of Yaremche's young men gathered on the station square opposite to Hotel of Ananas to register in the Legion of the Ukrainian Sechevik Streltsov. USS. As the shooter of Technical 100 Alexei Kolody remembered, this function was performed by Mr. Profetsky. A parting speech to volunteers was delivered by the Ukrainian writer, the teacher Bogdan Lepky. 1872–1941. On October 22, 1914, the Russian troops occupied Yaremche. On this site in the Austrian army there were 300 people and 6 stools. During heavy fighting of Yaremche passed several times from hand to hand, experiencing considerable losses. Indoor 40% of residential and farm buildings were destroyed. In June 1920, Yaremche as a part of Gutsalshina was occupied by the Romanian troops of the General Zadok. Command of the Romanian occupational troops recognized a separate administrative unit, the Delutinsky County, where Yaremchina entered. In August 1919, the Romanian troops left this territory and it was occupied by Poles. After war, the region economy was rather slowly restored.
On March 22, 1928, the order of the President of the Republic of Poland Yaremche gave the status of the resort area. On January 28, 1929, the Voivode Stanislavski, the Dr. Nakonechnikovkuyukovsky signed the charter of the resort of Yaremche.
During the interwar period of tourists involved rest in such boarding houses and Yaremche's country houses as Paradise, Meritin, Kitsalka, Pier, Genetsiana, C.A., Vilgrit, Lvovyanka, Stokrotka. Rooms were from modest to luxury. The cost of boarding house, from 4 to 8 zlotys a day. The institution of Dr. Joseph Maciszewski enjoyed wide popularity. In it there were several cabins for mineral and aromatic bathtubs, ingalatoria, terraces for solar and air bathtubs, department of hydropathic procedures. An institution worked all the year round. Treatment costed 7 zlotys from the person in day without time limits on stay. Public servants of self-government, pensioners, military personnel and their families received 35% of a discount. Doctors were exempted from payment. In 1926 there was a Posteroyena, the first power plant which belonged to S. Strom. There was it on Pilsudski Street of the time, a distance of 200 m from the railway station. Before World War II, by work of organization, the Mechanic 5. Volyanyuk directed. The tariff was fantastic even for those times, -3.8 zlotys for due/hour. Indoor since 1875 there was a 2-grade school with training Polish.
Semitism represents number of children of Greek Catholic who attended school -151.
The school in Yaremche was 1 kul, teaching language Polish, children of Greek Catholic -31, Remo Catholic -10, Jewish children -7. Children of the village of Yama studied at one grade school with teaching Polish.
1932 in Poland on education reform, as a result of which in Dor and Yaremche schools of the second step were created in Pit Elementary School.
During the interwar period in Dor, Yaremche, Pit reading rooms of education worked. In the village of Dor, the cooperative, with 3 shops and a furrier's and sartorial workshop functioned. It is here too organized a savings bank of Raiffeisenka.
It is interesting that it was conducted on a voluntary basis by the former State Secretary of Means of Communication of Zun, the engineer of the railroads Ivan Miron.
1857-1940. Who lived in Dora. Actively society, rural owner, in which there were 2 departments worked. Beekeeping and silkworm breeding. In this mountain village several tens of saplings of a mulberry, and when they grew up were planted, delivered caterpillars as silkworm and then distributed between the wishing owners.
Grandiose plans of Doryansky Department of Rural Owner were interrupted by war.
His soft climate with a large number of sunny days in a year attracted admirers of rest in Yaremche and Dori, most of all among the Ukrainian intellectuals of Lviv. So in Dor there was a country house of famous professor of the Lviv Poly-Equipment Dr. K. Wartel. Close the outstanding Ukrainian opera singer, the Ukrainian Caruso, Mikhail Galinsky. 1890-1973. Who in every possible way promoted Dora's prosperity, constructed the country house of Morislav, M. Galinsky purchased the Husel house here, thoroughly reconstructed, arranged and donated for the famous artist Oleksy Novikovskogo from Lviv. In September 1939 Yaremche was entered by groups of the Red Army. The activity of the Ukrainian political parties, public and cultural organizations was banned, their heads are arrested. In January 1940 Yaremche became the district center. On June 30, 1941 the city was occupied by the German troops. During World War II many boarding houses were damaged, some country houses are destroyed. A significant amount of inhabitants of Yaremche and its vicinities were exported for forced labor in Germany. More than 50 people died of hunger in 1942. With summer of 1943 in the neighborhood of Yaremche guerrillas of the Sumy connection of S.A. Kopik, who conducted wearisome battles with invaders, acted. On July 26, 1944 Yaremche was exempted from fascists. 565 soldiers and officers of the Red Army were killed in battles for Yaremchina, buried them in the downtown in a Massachusetts grave together with 93 guerrillas Kopikotsani. In 1967 on a grave the sculptural composition, a figure of the guerrilla who closes himself past 2 mountains. The sculptor 5. Boroda, architects A. Ignashenko and S. Tuchachenko, was established. Many natives of Yaremchina still in the early 40s joined ranks of the Ukrainian insurgent army. Quite often the whole families took part in formations of UPA. In the territory of Yaremchansky district of the time hundreds of Dovbush, Scooby, White arranged raids.
In 1996 on a Massachusetts grave of soldiers of UPA the monument to Fighters for Will of Ukraine on the project of the Lviv sculptor Piotr Steyer, the architect Igor Petroshin was established. After the war in Yaremche renewal period began.
This settlement received the status of the city of regional subordination. Here all the year round there comes the significant number of tourists. They are attracted not only by the fine nature, curative mountain air and an opportunity to do winter sports.
In January 1989 the population was 85 people.
Today Yaremche, low mountain climatic and ski resort, the center of tourism and rest to Prikirpati. The city is surrounded with mountains which in the north and the south passes into the picturesque hills covered with the dense coniferous and deciduous forests. Here numerous sanatoria, including for suffering from tuberculosis lungs, holiday houses, tourist bases and hotels are located. On December 14, 2006 the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine renamed the city of Yaremche into Yaremche. For January 1, 2013 the population was 8124 people. The climate of the Carpathians, and actually Yaremche, is defined by a geographical location of mountains and a certain height above sea level. The territory of the city is influenced by both continental and sea air masses of mid-latitudes, also Arctic air masses sometimes get. Yaremche's climate very damp, with rather low annual air temperatures. Average air temperature of January is 4-3 C, in mountains from 6 up to 12 C. Winter soft and very snow. Cold winters happen rather seldom. Average temperatures of July are +18, +19 C, in mountains from +7 up to +13 C. In Yaremche of rainfall drops out approximately -930 m a year, at tops of mountains up to 2000 m. At a raising in mountains the summer steps on each 100 m for 8-10 days later and for 5-6 days comes to an end earlier. Through Yaremche the Prut River flows. Within the city there are two falls, Breakdown and Maiden Tears. Soils in the neighborhood of Yaremche generally cespitose and podzolic, higher than 1200-1400 m, brown mountain Lesavy, at the height of 1500-1600 m, grey-brown, higher than 1600 m, mountain meadow. In the territory of the Carpathian National Park there are about 1100 plant species. 54% of all flora of the Ukrainian Carpathians. A main type of plants of the Carpathian Park are coniferous forests, in particular fir tree, pine and also firs. Except coniferous trees in National Park the beech and woods, mainly are widespread in a river basin the Prut. Grass vegetation of National Park is provided by bushes, among the last bilberry, cowberry, a cranberry, a creeping willow, the none are widespread. It is a lot of plant species, in particular Cornulobniavi and bulbous, a snowdrop, a belitsvetnik spring, Gayful saffron, are included in the Red List of Ukraine.
Statistics demonstrates from 132 species of the higher vascular plants of the Carpathians which are brought in 2 editions of the Red List of Ukraine, 80 grow in the territory of the Carpathian Natural Park.
In the city of Yaremche the tourist and recreational industry is and remains the natural basis of the economy, as causes almost total absence of large industrial enterprises. Delivery of houses and rooms in lease to tourists is widespread.
For today in the territory of Yaremchansky City Council industrial enterprises work in particular.
NL Svorektansky Forest Company, NL Statutarovsky Timber Mill, Schwenels Westwood, PX Kermanichin 2. For an example,
Sector 2002, the enterprises of the industry made products for the amount of 2,988.8 thousand Y, and the comparable price is 118.7% more corresponding period of 2001.
The considerable value in tourism industry plays the souvenir Yaremche market. The set of objects of national crafts is on sale. Pisanka, the carved, inlaid and burned wooden vases, caskets, saucers, spoons, tubs, various ceramic ware, jugs, tiles, sculpture, embroidered and woven shirts, towels, carpets, covers, products from beads, metal and leather, bathing accessories. Also, Yaremche is one of the main improving resorts of Ukraine. Low mountain climatic. There are sanatoria for TB patients, various diseases of lungs, holiday house. Still, mobile communication was provided by the Ukrtelecom companies, Minsk Ukraine, Beeline, Kyivstar, Astelit. The Life trademark. From mobile communication in the territory of the city is absent. Under pressure of group of local citizens, local authorities dissolved the lease agreement on the basis of which in the territory of the city towers of mobile communication were placed with mobile operators. From mobile communication is re-established. The city is located on a highway of Ivano-Frankivsk, Rakov, Usharad. The railroad connects the city with the regional center in Lviv. The city cooperates with programs of the European communities. Tarsus. The Carpathian Ever-Regions Funds, Renaissance, the What Would. Business relations with entrepreneurial structures of Germany, Poland, the CIS countries, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Israel in the field of tourism and the woodworking industry, the Czech Republic and Poland in the field of environmental protection are improved.
The city of Yaremche is included into Association of the Cities of Ukraine and Association of the Settlements of Gutsalshina. Agreements on cooperation in the field of tourism with administrations of the cities of Ukraine and with the mayor's offices of the abroad are concluded, namely
Opole Voivodeship, Namislav, Republic of Poland, Lesser Poland Voivodeship, Mr. Alvernia, Republic of Poland, State of Thuringia, Erfurt, Germany. Religion. Churches. Church of the Dormition of the Theotokos. 1884. Street. Ion Milostavi's Church with the Bell Tower. 1663. Church of the Street. Prophet Ilya. 1937. Churches. Street. Piet and Pavel. Archistratiga Mikhail's Miracle. Street. Jean the Baptist's Christmas. Neo-Greco-Catholic St. Andrew's Monastery Church, Area Dora Derevyanaya Ilianskaya St. Ion's Church, Church Mercy. Monasteries. Monastery of Street. Andrei. Monastery of Monks of the Studijski Charter. Convent of Congregation of Nurses of Street. Vikenti. Tourism. In Yaremche it is possible to use the following tourist services. Cycle tourism. Tours on 8C. Mountain and pedestrian tourism. Ski tourism. Horse tourism. Excursions across the Carpathians. Lease of equipment. Rafting. Sites. Falls. Breakdown, Maiden Tears, Bagravetsky Falls, Kaplavets. Yaremche Canyon. Pass Pereslop. Dovbush's Stone. Skala Dovbush. Museum of a Name of the Metropolitan A. Cheptitsky. Museum of Ethnography and Ecology of the Carpathian Region. Campsite Gutsalshina. The architecture monument, wooden restaurant Gutsalshina is made without uniform nailing. 2 souvenir markets of folk art of Gutsalshina. 2 mineral springs. The open-air cage with deer and rose. The sites available during the excursions. Meniavsky Falls. Trufanetsky Falls. Marinetsky Falls. Zhenetsky Falls. Mineral Spring Mud Flow Kivas. Sites. Wooden churches Mikhailovskaya. 17th century. And Street John Mercy. 18th century. With the bell tower. Monument to the leader of the National Liberation Movement O. 5. Dovbushu. Dovbush's Cave. The Museum and Monument of Guerrilla Glory of Connection of S.A. Kavpik S.5. Rudnov acting in the Carpathians in 1943. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.